So, Stephen, it's great to have you with us today. Thanks for joining the Curving Conversation series. So, should we kick off with life in Loughborough growing up and how that was for you and your sort of defining memories of childhood?
Yeah, I think I remember living in Loughborough, and my mum used to help out at a dance school. So that they were my first early memories. And like at the age of 3, I used to run in and out of the school where Deirdre, Neil Academy, where Deirdre teach. And so I just used to run in and out, and in the end I just joined. And so I remember that very well. And as a kid, you know, I just remember that I remember that more than I remember school, which is strange. You know, I just remember that something I love doing. So those were my early memories. I mean, I don't think I liked school much. I think I had the mick taken out of me for being a dancer and all that stuff in the years. And plus I was dyslexic and didn't find out that till later. And I did know that all I knew that dance got me noticed. I knew I had something that people, you know, I felt I could express myself in a way, and that was my way of expressing myself.
And were there many boys at the dance academy you were going to with Deirdre, or were you the only boy?
I was the only one at the beginning, and then like 2 or 3 crept in later years, but only like 2 or 3. There was never like a full troop of boys dancing. But yeah, I mean, it's funny. It's kind of the Billy Elliot story that we all say that, but it kind of was really, I suppose.
And then did you, when you were sort of, obviously you started so early, like you say, when you were sort of 3 years old, presumably you weren't dreaming about being a performer at that age. Was there a sort of point in your teenage years or where you can sort of really decide that that was the moment where I wanted to do this professionally?
Yeah, I mean, I remember watching films with my mum on a Sunday. For some reason, there's black and white dance movies, and I remember being so engrossed and excited by them, and I knew that was something I kind of wanted to do. And then, like I said, through performing, because dyslexia, I knew I got noticed, and it was something I was good at or could express myself. So I think I really wanted to do it when I joined the amateurs. I joined the Amateur Society in Leicester, and I suddenly thought, wow, God, I'd love to do this full time. You know, it just enlightened something in me.
Yeah, and then so how did you make the jump from the amateurs and the dance academy into the profession? What was your sort of route in?
Well, thanks to Deirdre, my dance teacher, who we all know in Leicester, and she said, you need to go and audition for schools. You need to, and I thought, well, I would never do that. My mum didn't want me to go, and it was a really hard one. So I just thought I'd try and see, and we went, and I was lucky enough to get into college. But thanks for Deirdre is the reason I went. And I remember going to college, and that was like the best thing in Loughborough. I was the worst thing in London. And I was like in all the lowest classes. And I remember doing 14 ballet classes a week because that was my weakest point because I knew I had to make myself better. And it was a big eye-opener going to London. I loved it. I mean, as soon as I got there, I went, this is what I have to do.
And which college did you train at? Where was your...
London Studio Centre. And it was great. And I remember actually going to see a West End show, Pal Joey, with Sean Phillips and Danielle Carson I can't remember what theatre it was, but I remember seeing that before I went to London and thinking, yeah, I've got to do this. And it's exciting when you see things like that.
Yeah, and tell us a bit about Deirdre then. You've mentioned her a couple of times, and I've obviously met her, had the pleasure of meeting her at Curve a few times. She's a really inspiring, quite incredible woman.
I mean, I have so much to thank Deirdre for. She is wonderful. She pushed me as a dancer. You know, she never let me off. She never let you slack. She let me have the keys early to the dance schools on certain days, and she knew I was going in practicing, but she'd let me do things like that. She was just a fabulous inspiration and a fabulous tap teacher. And, you know, we used to do disco and all that stuff, but to learn the real jazz, I didn't learn by proper jazz and ballet till I went to London. But she told me to go to another ballet school to learn ballet before I went to London, which is unheard of in these local schools. You don't do that. And that caused a bit of an uproar. But it was Deirdre that pushed me to do that as well. So thank God she did, actually.
Wow! So she sort of forced you to cross enemy lines into another college, and it's amazing whenever, and it's amazing when she comes to Curve and sees your shows there. It's so moving to see how proud she is of you and how passionate and how committed she still is to theatre and talent.
She's a wonderful lady. And I mean, she did perform herself. You know, she was in Last of the Summer Wine. She was in Coronation. I mean, she's done bits and bobs. So, you know, her passion is there as well.
Yeah. And who were you, either when you were sort of in those formative teenage years, or, you know, you said watching movies with your mum on a Sunday afternoon, or when you were at drama school, who were the artists, dancers, choreographers you were sort of looking up to? Were the people who sort of really fired your imagination at that time?
I remember Fred Astaire, Gene Kelly, Vera Ellen, Ann Miller, Eleanor Powell, all those people. Hermes Pan was amazing choreographer. I started to get interested in choreographers, and Jack Cole. They were just really, I think Bob Fosse got a lot of his inspiration from those choreographers. And of course, Bob Fosse, who was mind-blowing for me to watch. They were my main people that I just, inspired me unbelievably, that I was so excited learning about them.
And how important do you think it is for people, you know, young people in training now or entering the profession, to know about those people from the past, and to, you know, research and learn about the work of, you know, Jack Cole and some of those other choreographers and great dancers, you know, like Bob Fosse that you referenced?
I think it's so important. I mean, and go back to like the Nicholas brothers, they're mind blowing. You know, like people create all these new dances and say, oh, I've done this with this tin and I've done this with pans. And you go back to Nicholas brothers, they've probably done it all, or Fred or Gene, they've all done it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
They did way before we did. You know, hip hop and isolation all came from like the Nicholas brothers stuff. It's amazing. They've all connected, but I think this is the perfect time for anybody while we're in this lockdown. It's like a jewel, YouTube and everything, all the information, just absorb it like a sponge, I would say, and just watch everything and find out who they are and who choreographed it, and or directed, or who did the musical arrangement. You know, it's so wonderful to do at the moment. I'm obsessed with it at the moment. So is Matthew Bourne, so is Drew. We're all kind of posting inspiring things for people to watch, you know.
Yeah, and as you say, it's all there at our fingertips now. And you look at, like, I only really started to learn about the Nicholas brothers last year, and right, you know, just reading up on their lives, watching the YouTube documentary about them. Some of there's that dance sequence, you know, where they dance all around the orchestra, and then they do that sort of, there's that sort of raised sort of section that goes right up, and they do the most incredible, I don't know what you'd call them, coming down the
jump split,
sort of steps.
Over. It's just mind-blowing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. Did you so you went to college as a performer, and then you worked very successfully on the West End in touring shows and all the rest of it. Did you always know the ultimate dream was to be a choreographer?
Yeah, I think because I was at the dancing school, I choreographed the kids. You know, I took over doing my teachers and did dancing for them. And then when I got to college, I remember being asked to choreograph a lot of assessments for people. And also, because I got into 2 West End shows while I was at college, Evita and 42nd Street, I got to learn from the choreographers we were learning from, or the assistants. And I knew my mind was there. All I wanted to be was a dancer in the West End originally. And I remember when I got into 42nd Street and the curtain went up, and I remember just getting so like emotional, because I thought I'd made it. I'm at the top of my career now. And I just couldn't believe I was at Drury Lane tap dancing in a show I desperately wanted to do. So yeah, I kind of did want to be a dancer, but I did watch all the choreographers, and I was always choreographing pantos and things. So.
Wow. And what was the West End like at that time? It must have been, you know, very exciting, not just because you were sort of youngster going out into the profession, but it seems like a very rich, fertile time in terms of the talent and the choreographers and, you know, the sort of landscape of that time.
Yeah, it was love. I mean, it was fabulous. It was so exciting for me. I just couldn't believe I was going from one show to another. I mean, I really was a sponge. I was grabbing everything I could. And the only thing I didn't do was save money stupidly. So when I got my first tax bill, I kind of went, right. That was one thing I didn't learn at college. They do that now. But I was unaware of that completely. And I was just living the life and I was still going to college and doing all my classes apart from on the matinees. I wouldn't miss it. I was so focused. And I remember we were put down as the dancers at Studio Centre. And there was 8 of us said, can we go into the acting classes? Because I didn't just want to dance. I wanted to try and luckily we did. And they formed a theatre section after that, which was really nice.
It's so important, isn't it? Because people think of them as such sort of separate things, the singing, the acting and the dancing, but they're all completely intertwined and combined, aren't they? And they're just different expressions.
Yeah, but when I did Evita, there was the singers, the actors, and then your principals. it was the old school way. And then, of course, the next thing I was in was sports secretary, where you had to do everything. And, you know, it was quite a big eye-opener. Crikey, yeah, I used to go private singing lessons still, even though I was at college, to make my singing better, you know.
Wow.
Now, you know, nowadays you have to be, and plus you have to understudy, because casts are getting smaller. You have to have understudies, so they've got to be brilliant at everything.
Yeah, and sometimes even play a musical instrument. So you've got to be a sort of, you know.
I have the utmost respect for those people that do everything, utmost.
And so when did the sort of transition from performing to being a choreographer happen? When was that, and how did you sort of begin your career as a choreographer?
I think when my last show was West End, was Crazy for You, and I injured myself, and I went to leave, and Stroh asked me to be the associate on the show because I had an injury, which was perfect. I didn't have to be there all the time. So I kind of looked after the show, and then I started choreographing things like Cantos for Derby, doing their shows. And luckily enough, Mark Clements asked me during that to do Soul Train. So I took a bit of time off, and luckily that put me on the step ladder, you know. It was, so that's when, and I kind of knew I wanted to, and I knew I wasn't a good assistant. Like, I have amazing assistants, and I look at them and think I was never as good as you. But I was good at Crazy because I knew the show. But when I did Oklahoma for Stroh, it was just, my heart wasn't in it, and I knew I wanted to choreograph. So it was hard saying to Stroh, I don't want to assist anymore. That was really hard. But
Wow.
And Warren Carlyle wanted my job. He told me so. Really, he was my meal ticket out, and he was far better than me. So it was good. It worked out perfectly.
That's incredible. And so when you're sort of starting to think about a dance language for a piece and steps, where does that come from? Is it something you sort of visualize first, or is it a feeling you get through your body, or is it about getting into a studio and just sort of throwing ideas around physically? Where's the sort of seed for each piece?
I trained in a form of dance called mathematics, so it's very isolated, and arms. I love doing arms and angles, and so that's a base of mine. But then I always like to go into a studio with my assistant and work out, especially like when we passed something like Christmas, I knew how talented the dancers were, that I could push them that extra mile and do. I mean, that opening number was massive and hard. So it's quite nice to have, you know, once you know you've cast, you know how far you can go. And I will only do shows that now I'm lucky enough to say that I love the music and it inspires me to dance or bring something up in me. I mean, I will just go in a room and dance, and my assistant has to follow me and copy me and try and remember as much as they can. And that's how I build it.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And you're equally well known as a director, and, you know, sometimes directing and choreographing. Do you have a sort of preference, and how does that sort of
without a doubt, I'm choreographer first. You know, I only direct things I know backwards, so no one can catch me out. But you know, I look at directors like yourself, you know, and Trevor and Richard, and, you know, Anna Macmin, you know, there's so many great, and Josie Raw, I mean, so many brilliant directors I just adore, that I wouldn't say I'm you lot, but I do feel I've learned a lot, enough to be able to put on a good show, and I would only put on a show I know backwards.
Right.
I just think that, and I approach it as a choreographer because I think as a choreographer, I mostly direct the numbers anyway. I never really just dance for dance sake, unless it's, you know, unless it's really asked for. I like them to forward the story. Nothing better than seeing characters dance, even if they're not dancers. Characters move, and that excites me doing that.
Yeah, and I think everything we do is about collaboration, isn't it? And I love, like, obviously we have such a great relationship, and I love working with you and being on the floor with you, because there's no sort of hierarchy, or there's no sense that this is your area of work and this is mine. It's just completely fluid, with us sort of rolling together and finding our way together.
You always include me in everything, which is quite a few directors I've worked with do that, but there are some that don't. So yeah, sometimes I bite my lip and just sit there. But I believe you should never, I think when we work together especially, you never know where you've left and I've taken over, and vice versa.
Exactly.
I think that's so important, because many years ago I used to watch shows and it was like a light switch when a number started, and you think that they've been in two different rooms, and it used to bother me a little bit. And so I'm obsessed about that join and collaboration. I mean, I get to work with all of you and the people that I really collaborate with.
Yeah, and it's like we were saying about the sort of singing, acting and dancing. There shouldn't be sort of the actor or the performer shouldn't be thinking about those in different sort of departments or different ways. They're all an expression of the character and the story, and they're moving towards their objective. And that's the same in the wider picture of the entire show, isn't it? The way the scenery moves, the way it interacts with the direction, the choreography, the music, everything. It should all be from the same sort of seed.
Without a doubt. And I mean, and also the thing I do find out with actors, you can't, like with dancers, you can go in a room and say, oh no, try that again on your right foot from the other side and reverse it. You can't do that with actors. I think with actors that want to dance and want to enjoy it, you kind of go in, you have to give them a kind of a set idea what it is before you start messing it about, because they start to panic then. And the more comfortable you make them feel and trust you, I always say to them, look, I will never make you look a fool. And that's all I can offer them. And they just have to believe.
Yeah, I think, I mean, you've worked with so many artists, people like Victoria Wood, and you've made them look like amazing dancers, and you have this sort of effortless way about you, which just puts people at ease. And I remember there was that, it was a Friday afternoon when we were doing White Christmas at the Dominion, and you had your session with Brenda Edwards and was sort of putting her number together as Martha, and it was very moving for all of us who were in the studio that afternoon watching you work with Brenda. It was so meticulous, so caring, so detailed. And I think she was genuinely surprised at the end of it, like, wow, I'm like dancing this number full out as well as really singing it. And it was, and it was very moving. And I wondered if you'd always had that gift in terms of the way you work with folk, or whether that's something you've developed over time.
I think I've developed that over time. It does take a while. I just felt with Brenda, she came in and she wanted to please us, all of us, and wanted to be good. And when you've got that passion, you can get so much more out of them. And I just gave her every detail. And I thought, well, she doesn't look right doing that. Do something that works on her body, that works. You need to create around the actors a lot more than saying you have to do 82 drag runs, or, you know, you have to work around each character. And she was a prime example of joy to have in a room, because you just molded, but she was enjoying it and she just wanted to please. So it's always a good example. When I did Anything Goes, I remember we had Love's Labour's Lost cast in with Anything Goes. And I had to make them all tap at one point. And I thought, they were very like, you know, I'm an actor, I don't dance. And of course, what I did in the warm-up, all the tap steps into the warm-up without them knowing. So when we start to learn it, they were like, oh my God, I don't mind doing a bit more. And it was a really clever thing that I always do now. And they couldn't have been more happier dancing by the end. And I'm so pleased, you know, I made them feel that way.
Yeah, I remember I saw that production at Drury Lane, and it was absolutely sensational. And it must have been incredible for you as somebody who'd performed on that stage, one of your first gigs in 42nd Street, and then to be there choreographing this spectacular musical, Trevor Nunn directing, you know, this incredible company. It was sensational, Stephen.
Yeah, I was just blown away. And I think it is, to this date, it is my favourite experience of my whole career. I mean, I've had amazing experiences, but I can honestly say I was like I was younger then, a lot younger, and Trevor was so generous, and all of them. Anthony Powell doing the designs, Oscar winner. I was like out of my league, really. So I was just praying that I was going to come up with the goods, and with Gareth Valentine's amazing arrangements, which helped tremendously to change. So of course we had 8 weeks rehearsal. So I was like, 8 weeks. I've never heard of that ever since. I was giving people notes and eyelashes. Cass were like, oh my God, I'm sure they wanted to kill me at some point.
That's brilliant. I love the idea of giving the eyelashes notes. That
literally was. I was dreadful by the time. They were so, when we opened, it was so like a cloud had lifted, because they were just dying to hear an audience. And of course, it was such a great success, and I'm so proud to have been part of it.
Yeah, it was stunning. And Curve audiences obviously adore you and know you through Mary Poppins and White Christmas and Scrooge. What do you enjoy about coming to Leicester and making work at Curve?
You know what? I always wanted to work at Leicester, but I think the thing that I was really pleased about, definitely wanted to work with you, and I wanted to work at Leicester. And so when you asked me to do Scrooge, it was amazing. And I just think the layout of the theatre is great. The diversity in the theatre is fantastic that you bring to that theatre. I mean, I just love working there. I think it's a wonderful place to work. And I'm so thrilled that Cameron uses it as his main place to start his big shows off, because it's the perfect place. And the audiences are just, they love it in Leicester. They absolutely adore what you bring to it, you and Chris bring. And it's, you know, I'm looking to work there. So it's a great place.
Well, bless you. And it's always an honour to have you there. And let's hope when all of this is over, we'll be back together many times creating shows there. And as you say, you know, seeing Cameron's work there is just, you know, thrilling. Those amazing productions. I always think it's amazing for our crew who are so skilled anyway, but then you bring all of that technology and all of the resource that Cameron can bring to a show, and the learning that we all get from that is just phenomenal.
And also the size of the curved stage is amazing. You know, like we went to Denmark thinking, oh, we're going to have to cover it up. And of course, our stage is big. I say, oh, yours stage is big. And, you know, at the Denmark, it fitted in perfectly because you have such a massive stage.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm sure some of Cameron's shows have to pull it down a bit, you know, the sight lines for the touring and that. But it's such a perfect box to work in. I mean, Scrooge, when we went right to the back of the stage with a ghost that flew out, I mean, that was mind-blowing to watch. Very exciting.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? And I was thinking about it the other day, actually, how simple it was. You know, it's just lights, a bit of smoke, an actor on a wire with Ed's fantastic cloak sweeping all the way down. It was pure theatre.
Absolutely.
So aside from theatre, you've also, like, you know, Stephen Mear directing eyelashes and doing all his wonderful tap, has also choreographed pop videos for like Goldfrapp and Oasis, which, you know, incredible pieces of work in their own right. How did that come about, and what were those experiences like?
I think it was, you know, it was while I was doing Anything Goes again. For some reason, Anything Goes really put me on the map. Even, you know, they just asked me to do the video Oasis, and I was like, wow, you know, because there's a lot of commercial people that would have broken my arms to do that. And of course, that was a great experience, but it's a different world. And then I got to do Goldfrapp. I had no idea who Goldfrapp was. It was Mark said, "No, she is Stephen. She's fabulous." But I mean, it's a different world. And of course, I could have set it within 2 days, but of course, you have a week to set it out. I mean, I feel they waste a lot of money on these productions. They could save so much money by doing it short. If you go in prepared, I think it's kind of one of those things. You sit around a lot, and then you have to film. But it was a wonderful experience, and I was very grateful for them.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what I love working about you, the sort of amount of prep you do, and the fact that when we start, you know, on the floor, it's already there, it's ready to go, and it just makes you feel so sort of comfortable and confident to be able to create and push and challenge, because you've already got that really amazing anchor. It's
and like I said, you've got a set thing there that you push them, and even if you want to change it, it's easier to change than when you're going, oh, let's try this, or let's try this, and then they're saying, well, I don't know what the original thing was. I've had that before in the room. So you just have to learn to do that, and especially when you know who you've got, and you know how far you can push them, acting wise, dancing wise, character wise. You know, we work with brilliant people. Look at all the White Christmas lot at the Dominion, was sensational. You know, it's like they were like sponges, which is always nice when they want to deliver goods and create stuff.
Yeah, and I think one of the many things I've learned from you, I think, is in terms of getting the right personalities together. And often in the casting process, I mean, we very rarely disagree on somebody in terms of what they bring technically, but you'll say, well, I think that person's a really good company member. I know they're so-and-so is wonderful to have as part of a team, and they're really positive, and you've always got such a good eye for how we put a company together so that when they're doing the 74th show on Christmas week, they're still in great spirits and they're still motivated and working really well together. And that's, you know, something I really, you know, took on board from our Scrooge experience going forward. It was a really sort of important lesson.
I think it's so important to have a good company, because you only need one bad apple. I mean, I'm a big believer, I don't care how good they are, but if they're a pain in the arse, it just made me question about using them, you know. Yeah, so I'd rather have people that perhaps will take a bit longer, but are just so passionate and just want to soak everything in and just be grateful for being there. It's just wonderful. I mean, look, I'm sure everybody now, they're off work and laid off and going through this mad time, they're all thinking, wow, I wish I'd have taken more advantage of that. And I'm sure people are thinking those things, and I hope they are.
Yeah.
Just grateful. I mean, it's killing me not creating and being in a room with company and that. It's actually, I want to see people, I want to hug people, I want to create, I want to be joyous. The joy, we're so lucky to be in a job that we're so joyously care about and love doing. So I'm forever grateful.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And like you, I'm just so passionate and care about it so much. And, you know, there's nothing better than walking into that big rehearsal room at Curve every day. And just, you know, I remember when we were doing White Christmas, and, you know, every morning we'd be in at 9, and then Dan Burton was there and Joe, and just the idea that we're preparing for this great day ahead, and we're all tired, but we're loving it, and we're working harder than we've ever done. And there's something really special about that. And as you say, when it's gone, as it is temporarily at the moment, you desperately miss it.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Yeah, it was nice being in that morning, you know, and those people that do come in early and rehearse, and you think, crikey, I'm here trying to get ahead of you, and they're all learning. You know, it was quite a beautiful eye-opener. That happens quite a lot, actually.
Yeah, and so you've talked a little bit about attitude and having a positive attitude and being a good, hard-working company member. What do you think there's anything lacking with actors, performers coming out of training today? Is there anything that you sort of notice is sort of gone astray a little bit from the days you were working as a performer? Are there things people should be thinking about improving on?
If you go into an audition room, know who you're auditioning for. Know what period you're auditioning for. Don't sing a song that's not, do you know what I mean? Make it your business to know that. They do that in America. They really do. So I think sometimes, I think we do, don't say, I'm not knocking everyone, but sometimes we have English people come in and sometimes go and apologize. I've never been in an audition where Americans apologize. If they've got a bad voice, it cracks, you can hear it, you know. So there's those things, but I just think know what you're auditioning for. Don't go in blind.
Yeah. And then what about for somebody interested in pursuing a career in choreography and as a choreographer? What would your advice be to them?
I mean, I would just, if you love it and you're really passionate, just go along. And first of all, you have to grab any job you can at the beginning. And then after a while, you have to start thinking, is this making me happy? Am I showing myself to? And then hopefully a show will come along that you think, oh, I can prove myself even more. I think that's where you've just got to get experience of working with, not just as a choreographer, working with directors and being collaborative. That is the main word. And just be, and if you love it, keep doing that. I mean, I was lucky when I was started, there weren't that many choreographers. Now everybody wants to be a choreographer.
It's the same with directors.
There's so many fabulous young choreographers coming up. I'm like, oh my God. But it makes me want to be even better. I don't think, oh, I'm going to leave it to them. It makes me even want to be better. So just go out there and just trust yourself and love what you do. And if you love it, you'll carry on doing it.
That's great advice. Thank you. And so last year you went off to Buckingham Palace and you got your CBE. Many congratulations. What was that day like and what does that mean to you?
Do you know what? I sometimes just have to pinch myself because, I mean, I got a doctorate earlier on in the year. If I'd have had to written a test, I would never have got that in a million years. And then I get a CBE. I mean, it's just mind-blowing. I thought it was a joke at first. When I got to Palace, I did get a bit teary because I thought, should I be here? But it was quite emotional. You know, you're there, but then they'd say, so and so for brain surgery, and so for saving lives, and this Stephen Mear for dance, and you kind of go, But I am very, very grateful, and it's very emotional at the time, and you know, you just can't. I'm always shocked about everything. I never take anything for granted. None of us are irreplaceable. You know, I just love what I do, and I'm just grateful. So.
And I know you joke about, you know, the brain surgeons and the people saving lives collecting their sort of awards and gongs at the Palace. What role do you think a theatre like Curve should be playing when we come out of this crisis that we're in at the moment? Do you think theatre still has value within our society at the moment?
I think more than ever once we come back. I mean, first of all, it's getting them to go to the theatre with money being short, but I mean, there are shows where you've paid for some and I'm sure they'll backtrack them like Poppins and that will. But I think the Curve is just doing shows that bring joy. And I think pure escapism, especially after what we've been through, you can't beat. And going to the Curve to watch shows is pure escapism.
Excellent. Thank you, Stephen. It's been absolutely amazing talking to you. So inspiring. Thank you for your time.
Take care.